I got into the alpha of PUBG Black Budget. Is it finally time for Escape from PUBG, the perfect mix of both games, or is it just another PUBG themed extraction shooter with no soul? So in this video we will look at actual alpha footage from me playing the game, and I want to walk you through what Black Budget actually is, how close it comes to Tarkov, how much of that PUBG DNA really survived, and who this game might be for. Let's get into it. PUBG was one of the most fun games I've ever played. Slower pace, tense mid-game, and that ridiculous adrenaline when there was only 5 guys left and your hands started shaking. What it was missing was exactly what Tarkov later gave me, the feeling of real progression. PUBG was always that fresh start, land, loot, fight, die, reset. Amazing in the moment, but nothing really carried over. Now PUBG Studios or Krafton is making a first-person extraction shooter called PUBG Black Budget, and this might be the first time these two worlds collide. Let's start with the basics. What even is Black Budget? It's a standalone game set on an island named Coley. The whole place is trapped in a time loop because of something called the anomaly. You drop in as a contractor, you look for weapons, gear and strange artifacts, you try to survive and extract before the island basically wipes and the loop resets. If you extract, you keep what you found, you bring it back to your base, you upgrade your stash and unlock new gear and perks. If you die, you lose what you took in, so very much like Tarkov. Raids are around 30 minutes as well, but there's roughly 40 plus players per session in squads of up to 3. And the map is a compact island with jungle, ruins and underground labs. Smaller than a PUBG map, but it's still big enough to get those long sidelines and flanking plays like DayZ. So it's Tarkov on a big map. No. The first big twist is the anomaly. Instead of a blue circle like PUBG, you have this unstable phenomenon that slowly eats the map while you are playing. The longer you stay, the smaller the safe area gets, the more dangerous the island becomes. As someone who really liked PUBG's pacing, this actually makes a lot of sense to me. In PUBG, the circle created this perfect natural pressure. You could not just sit in one spot all game, the zone eventually forced you to make plays. That made the end game so intense. Tarkov does not really have that. You can sit in a bush for 20 minutes, never see anyone, and it's technically a valid strategy. It creates tension, but it's a lot of downtime. Black Budget tries to sit right in between. It keeps the extraction structure, but borrows PUBG's idea of a shrinking danger zone to make sure something eventually happens. That could be a really good thing for pacing. The second twist is that it's fully PvPvE. You fight other contractors, yes, but there's also NPC enemies on the island, roaming animals and some generally nasty looking monsters affected by the anomaly. The devs talk about fear and horror elements, so it's not just bots to farm. There are even early mentions of underground areas with something like bosses. This is where it starts to pull away from pure Tarkov and move towards something like Arc Raiders. The big difference to Arc Raiders for me is simple. Arc Raiders is third person and the guns are not based on real weapons. They look good, but they don't feel like an M4 or an AK. They feel like a Rattler, or whatever the devs call them. Black Budget keeps the first person, at least for now, and uses realistic weapons. Same perspective as Tarkov, similar vibe to PUBG, just in a world that is a little bit strange. Looking at the starting screen, you can see that a third person mode is hinted. The third pillar for me is the metagame. Between raids you are not just dumped back to menu. You go back to your base, a separate island off the coast of Coley. You expand your stash, build crafting stations, research the artifacts you brought out, and work with 3 different factions that offer missions and rewards. If you like that feeling of building a hideout in Tarkov, this will look very familiar. Black Budget aims to keep the fun, slightly janky tactical energy of PUBG, but add a Tarkov-style long-term progression onto it. On paper, that combination is exactly the thing I've been waiting for. So how close does it really come to Tarkov? Structurally, it hits a lot of the same notes. Full loot lost on death, persistent stash, base upgrades, mission-style objective. But it has one big map you'll need to learn piece by piece instead of a few smaller maps, and it feels a little bit more arcadey. But yeah, it's clearly not just another battle royale with shops. Where it looks different is the tone and how harsh it might be. Tarkov is completely grounded and relentlessly punishing. No one holding your hand, no map markers, no mercy. You are expected to suffer, to fail, and to slowly build up knowledge over hundreds of hours. That is part of its charm, but it's also why a lot of people bounce off it. Black Budget leans into science fiction and paranormal stuff, time loops, anomalies, strange artifacts, and it looks like it wants to be more approachable. And all of the official wording focuses on exploration and discovery, not misery. So I don't think this is Tarkov but with PUBG skins. It feels more like PUBG Studios looked at Tarkov's core ideas and asked, what if this was a little less hostile and a little more guided? And then wrapped it up in a weird island experiment. If this ends up being too soft or just right is something we can only judge once we actually get our hands on it. Now, how much of the PUBG DNA actually made it into this thing? Gunplay is the obvious one. The people behind Black Budget are the same studio that made PUBG, and some of the same designers who worked on weapon feel and animations are involved again. So you can expect realistic recoil and guns that feel heavy and satisfying. That is something a lot of extraction shooters have struggled with. Tarkov has depth, but it feels clunky. Arc Raiders has style, but its shooting never quite hit that gritty, grounded feeling. If Black Budget nails PUBG level gunplay in an extraction format, that alone will make it stand out. Movement and pacing are currently a bit weird. PUBG always sat in that nice middle ground for me, slower than an arcade shooter, faster than a full milsim. Enough time to think, enough weight to a character that position matters. But it's still responsive enough to feel good. We are currently missing a bit of that character weight. From everything we've seen so far, Black Budget is not trying to be a Tarkov copy. One island, long sessions, a shrinking anomaly that naturally creates a rhythm that is closer to PUBG than it is to something like Tarkov. You take it slow, you play for information, you avoid noise until you commit. But when that circle comes for you, everything can go down really fast and intense. So who do I think this game is really for? If you liked PUBG because it was tense and a little slower, but you always wished there was some kind of meaningful long-term progression, this is exactly the answer to your wish. If you like the idea of Tarkov, but you do not enjoy how brutal it is, Black Budget might be a more welcoming version of that idea, with better onboarding and a stronger narrative hook. If you tried Arc Raiders and thought, I like extraction but I want first person, I want guns that look and sound like actual weapons, and I want something that feels more grounded, Black Budget is probably more appealing to you. If you are a pure arena or battle royale grinder who only cares about fast ranked games, this might feel too slow and too PvE heavy. So is it time for escape from PUBG? Right now, based on the info we have, I would say it has a real shot. It takes parts of what made PUBG special, the pacing, the gunplay, and drops them into an extraction framework closer to Tarkov. If they can make death feel meaningful without being miserable, if the anomaly timing feels tense instead of annoying, and if the guns actually live up to that PUBG legacy, this could easily become the next big extraction shooter. I'm genuinely curious to see the upcoming tests and how players react once the game finally gets released. If you want a breakdown of the gunplay, the AI, and how it feels compared to Tarkov, let me know in the comments and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like, and I hope to see you in the next one.